this project, I'm going to be using the Paint Box yarns. This is a really pretty light butterscotch color. It is a lightweight 3, and also I'm going to be using a 7mm crochet hook. I end up using about 4 skeins of this, and they are about 300 yards each. The size that I am making fits a small to medium, and it's going to be worked in 4 parts. So we're going to make the front, the back, and the 2 sleeves all separately. So just begin by making a slip knot, and this is going to be the base chain for the front of the sweater. For a size small, you should do about 51 chains, for a medium 57 chains, and for a large 65 chains. So I'm just going to begin by making 57 chains. So now that I've finished making my initial chain, so I'm going to block that last chain off with my thumb and chain an additional 3. Once I have chained the additional 3, I'm going to wrap the yarn around the hook and go through the chain that I had just blocked off. So I'm going to be placing a half double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, pull through. With 3 loops left on my hook, I'm going to yarn over, pull through all 3 of those loops. That is a half double crochet. Then after the half double crochet, just chain 1. Then you're going to be skipping over the very next chain in the row, placing a half double crochet through the chain after. So again, wrap the yarn around your hook, skipping the next chain, going through the chain after, placing 1 half double crochet. You're going to continue this pattern for the remainder of this row. So just always chain 1, wrap the yarn around the hook, skipping the next chain, going through the chain after. So just go ahead and finish this row of half double crochet. Once you've made your way to the end of the row, to begin on the next row and all of the rows following, you're just going to chain 3, flip over your work, prepare for a half double crochet by wrapping the yarn around the hook. Then you're going to be placing your hook directly through this chain 1 space beneath. And you're going to be placing 1 half double crochet. Then chain 1, skip over to the next chain 1 space, placing 1 half double crochet. Chain 1, skip over to the next chain 1 space, place 1 half double crochet. So this is going to be the pattern for majority of this sweater. So it makes a very lightweight sweater, perfect for the fall season because it's really good for layering. It's not too warm. But yeah, so I'm just going to continue this for a small and medium size. I'm going to complete about 25 rows. For a large, I'd recommend 30 rows, but I'm just going to be repeating this pattern for the next 25 rows, and then I will come back and show you what is next. So I just want to show you with a little bit more detail how I'm ending each row. So I have placed a half double crochet through the second to last chain 1 space. So for the very last chain 1 space, I'm not going to be going through that space. I'm going to be going through the top of the chain 3 along the turn. So I'm going to prepare for a half double crochet and place my hook through that top chain just so that I have a straight edge along the side of the sweater. It'll make this easier to sew the 2 pieces together. So that is how I'm ending each row. And again, to begin the next row, always chain 3, flip over your work, and then just go through that very first chain 1 space with a half double crochet. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue this for the next 25 rows and I will be back. So now I finished with the 25 rows of the half double crochets. I'm gonna get started on more of like a block pattern to be across the chest of the sweater. So for this portion of the pattern, I'm going to be chaining 2 to begin the row, flip over the work, and then I'm going to be placing 2 half double crochets in that chain 1 space. And then just jump straight over to the next chain 1 space, placing 2 half double crochets. So that's all I'm going to be doing for this row, placing 2 half double crochets in each chain 1 space. So now that I've reached the end of the row and that very last chain one space, just like I had been doing in the previous rows, I'm going to put that first half double crochet just through that chain one space, and then the second one is going to go into the top of the chain 3 at the very corner of the row. Now to begin on row 2, I'm going to chain 2, flip over the work. And then this very first chain that is connected to the chain 2, I'm going to skip over that and go into the very next chain with my first half double crochet. So this is going to be a row of half double crochet. So basically you're going to be repeating just basic rows of half double crochet. For the size small, I'm going to be doing 10 rows. Medium, I would recommend 15 rows, and large, I would recommend 20 rows. So I'm just gonna finish this blocked pattern and then come back once I've finished with the additional 10 rows of half double crochet. So now I have completed the 10 rows of no spaces, just plain half double crochet. So this is all I'm gonna do for my block pattern across the center of the chest. So now I'm going to go back to doing this skipping half double crochet pattern. So to begin that, I'm going to go back to chaining 3 to begin the row, flipping over the work, and I'm going to prepare for half double crochet. I'm going to skip over that very first chain that's connected to the chain 3 and go through the very next chain with my half double crochet. Then chain 1, skip that very next chain in the row, going through the chain after with a half double crochet. So I'm going to go back to this pattern and I'm going to do about 10 more rows of this to complete the front panel of the sweater. So just go ahead and complete this panel. I'll come back to show you what to do next. So now I've finished with the additional 10 rows of the original crochet pattern. I'm just going to cut this and fasten this off here. So now that you have finished the front panel, what you're going to want to do is to make a second one. So exactly the same. I've already made one. So now I have 2 identical panels. This is going to be the front and the back of the sweater. Once you're finished with that, just put that aside, and then now I'm going to get started on the sleeve. So for the sleeve ribbing around the wrist, I am going to switch to a smaller hook. This is a 4.5mm hook. And I'm just going to take the same yarn, make a slip knot, and I'm going to chain a total of 36. So now for the pattern for the ribbing, I am just going to be placing rows of half double crochet. So I'm going to wrap the yarn around the hook, go through that very second chain from the hook. So the very next chain over, I'm going to be placing my first half double crochet. And then I'm going to go back along this row, placing 1 half double crochet in each chain. So now I've made my way to the end of the row, placing half double crochets. So for this ribbing pattern, this is going to be the sleeve, so it's going to fit you lengthwise down your arms. So we're going to be crocheting the width, so this is going to fit around your wrist. So to do so, I'm going to be chaining 2 to begin every row, flipping over the work, placing a half double crochet in that first chain in the back loop only. So if you're not familiar with crocheting in only the back loop, normally we crochet through the entire chain, which is 2 loops, but when you're just doing the back loop, it's pretty self-explanatory, you're only placing it in the back loop. So I'm just going to be placing a row of half double crochets in the back loop only, and then basically just repeat this until it fits the width around your wrist. So I'll come back and let you know how many chains that ends up, or how many rows that ends up being for me. At the end of each row, chain 2, flip over the work, and then crochet in the back loop of the next row. So it's pretty easy. I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this section and come back. So now I've finished the number of rows for my sleeve. I did a total of 18 rows. This is for like a size small. If you're doing a medium, I'd recommend 20 rows, and a large 22 rows. So now I haven't fastened off. I'm just gonna continue this same yarn. I'm gonna chain one and then make an edging along one of the sides. This is gonna be the side where the sleeve is, so it just has a nice clean edge. So I chained one. I'm just gonna evenly place single crochets along this row, keeping it towards the top. There's no really right or wrong way to do this. I'm just gonna make sure that they're evenly spaced. So now I've made my way to the end of the edging. I'm just gonna flip this again towards this side. I'm gonna fold it in half, and I'm going to be placing a row of single crochet to connect the sleeve together lengthwise. So now I've made my way to the end. So before I begin on the remainder of the sleeve, I'm just going to flip the sleeve inside out so that the seam line is on the inside. And then I'm going to put my hook back through the working yarn. And now we're going to begin working along the perimeter of the sleeve. So what I'm going to do to begin is I'm going to cram in a total of 51 chains along this perimeter. If you have made a medium or a large, you could alter that to be 55 or 61 chains. You're just going to want to have a really condensed bulk of chains going around the outside of the sleeve, just so that the sweater kind of bulks up and it has like a nice look to it. So I'm just going to do that with the same hook. So now I went around and I placed 51 chains total around the perimeter of the sleeve. So I'm just going to go through that very first chain one, and I'm going to place a slip stitch to join this row together. Then I'm going to switch back to the 7mm hook, and it will be a little bit difficult to place this first row of chains because obviously these are smaller chains, but I found that's the only way to really jam in that number of chains to begin with, so just do your best. So I'm gonna go back to the half double crochet pattern. So I'm going to begin by chaining 2, preparing for a half double crochet, skipping that very first chain, placing my hook through the chain after with a half double crochet. Then I'm going to chain 1, skip that very next chain, going in the chain after with a half double crochet. So I'm going to make my way around this first row, placing half double crochets, skipping chains in between. So now I'm back to the beginning. You should have, well, this is my last half double crochet and I have 2 chains left. So I'm just going to place that last half double crochet through that very last chain. And then I am just going to straight join it to the top of the chain 2 from the beginning with a slip stitch. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then through that very first chain 1 space, I'm going to place my first half double crochet. And then this is how I'm going to continue the row, chaining 1, skipping over to the next chain 1 space, placing a half double crochet. So I am going to be repeating this pattern for the next 12 rows. So I'm going to just be placing half double crochets, chaining 1 in the chain 1 spaces, and I'm going to join every row together with a slip stitch, chain 2, and begin on the next row. So I'm just going to continue that for the next 12 rows. So now I've finished with the 12 rows, and as you can see, when you're joining the rows together, it does kind of turn the seam line, but you know, that doesn't really matter. This is going to go on the inside of your arm. So now I'm going to do a small block pattern for the sleeve as well, and to do that, it's basically the same as the body of the sweater. So I'm going to chain 2, And I'm going to be placing 2 half double crochets through that first chain 1 space. And then go right over to the next chain 1 space, placing 2 half double crochets. So you're just placing 2 half double crochets in each chain 1 space. And I'm just going to make my way all the way around to complete this row. Then I'm going to join the row together with a slip stitch. And I'm going to do a total of 8 rows. So that is going to be the height of this little block pattern. It's going to be 8 rows. So I just want to show you, I've made my way to the end of the row. I'm going to just be connecting it straight. I'm not chaining anything between these half double crochets. So I'm just going to go straight over to the top of that chain 2, and I'm going to place my slip stitch. So once you have your slip stitch, to begin the next row, just chain 2. You're going to be going right into that first chain. And you're just going to be placing 1 half double crochet in each chain. So now I've finished with this part of the sleeve. So I did a total of 8 rows. Now I'm going to go back to this open half double crochet pattern. So to get started with that, I'm going to chain 2 and then go through that very first chain with a half double crochet. Then I'm going to chain 1. So once I chain 1, I'm going to skip over that very next chain, going through the chain after, placing a half double crochet. Chain 1, skip a chain, place a half double crochet. So that is going to be this first initial row. And then I'm going to be doing a total of 10 rows of this original pattern. And then I'm going to be done with the sleeve. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish that up. So just to show you how I'm ending the row. So I have my last half double crochet and there's 1 chain left in the row. I'm just going to chain 1, skip over to the top of the chain 2 and place my slip stitch there. So that's how I'm going to end the row. And then to begin on the next row, just chain 2. Place your first half double crochet in that first chain 1 space and continue the pattern. So now I've completed the additional 10 rows. I am done with this sleeve, so I'm just going to cut and fasten this off. And then once you're done with the sleeve, you're going to want to just make another one, the same exact pattern. So once you're finished with the second one, then it's time to start connecting all of the pieces together. So I have my top and my back piece lined up together, and I'm just placing the arms. Make sure that the seam line for the bottom of the sleeve is facing the armpit, obviously, and this is just going to go all the way to the top of this. So I'm going to begin down here, attach my yarn with a double knot, and I'm just going to be working my way up with a row of single crochet. And then once I get to the base of the armpit, I'm just going to lift off and join one side of the sleeve together, make my way around and loop back around so that I'm ending on the bottom. And then I'm just going to repeat that process on the other side, and then I will come back and show you how to do the neckline. So as you can see, I'm finished attaching the sides and the sleeves together. So I just made my way up and around, all the way around the sleeve. The top of the sweater still isn't attached, so I'm going to do that now. So I'm just going to start on one side. So I'm just going to begin on the very corner, placing my hook through both sides. So what you're going to do is you're going to want to crochet inward about 3 to 4 inches. So you're going to want to leave kind of a large opening for the neck, but I'm only going to be crocheting inward. Let's see. So I'm only going to be crocheting 6 spaces into the neck. So I'm just going to yarn over, pull through, chain 1 to pull up the yarn, and I'm going to be doing just a basic chain of single crochet one more time. Just make sure you're spacing them evenly. So I'm going to stop here. This is as far as I'm going to go inward for my shoulder portion. Just to save the hassle of fastening off, I'm just going to pull off the front side and just single crochet my way across. So I'm placing 2 single crochets per chain 1 space just to evenly space it out. I'm gonna make my way across and then start reattaching the other shoulder roughly the same distance away from the sleeve. So I'll start about there, reattaching it together, but I'm just gonna single crochet my way across until this point and then reattach the other shoulder using single crochet as well. So now that I've made my way to the end, you should have an opening for your neck and then both shoulders crocheted together. I'm just going to cut and fasten off my yarn at this point, and then I'm going to reattach on the corner of the opposite side. So I have single crocheted my way across this side. I'm going to reattach on this corner to single crochet my way across, and then I'm going to add a little bit of a neck. This is optional, but I'll show you the pattern I'm going to use for mine. But first I'm just going to reattach and single crochet my way across to the joining of the shoulder on the other side, the same way that I did the opposite side. So now I've worked my way to the end and I've met the other shoulder, so I'm just going to start working in a round. So I'm not going to be joining this together. I'm just going to prepare for a half double crochet, go into that very first chain on the opposite side of the neck, placing 1 half double crochet. So I'm just going to be placing 1 half double crochet per chain on the neckline. So I'm going to make my way around to the other side and then just skip right over and then meet back here. So this is going to be my starting point of half double crochets. So I'm going to do 1 row of half double crochet, 1 half double crochet per chain. So now I've did 1 row of half double crochet around the neckline, and I'm just going to end that there. If you wanted to build up the neck to do a turtleneck, this is where you would do it. You would just continue with half double crochets, maybe add a few decreases on the corners as you go up, but I'm just going to stop here. So to stop the neckline, I'm just going to jump over to that very first half double crochet and then make a slip knot, and then cut and fasten that off. Then all you have left to do is just weave in all the ends. You're basically done with the sweater. If you wanted to do a tighter edging around the bottom, you're more than welcome to as well. I'm just gonna leave it raw, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Obviously flip it inside out. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Yeah, so this sweater is just really cute. It's super lightweight because it's a lightweight yarn. Not too warm, but it's perfect for layering. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.